team, we knew we needed to reinvigorate Path of Exile's endgame. It's been a couple of years since the War for the Atlas expansion added the Shaper and Elder influence mechanic, and while the Atlas endgame has changed a little with various new league mechanics since then, the master changes and some shuffling of maps, it's certainly been getting a little stale in our opinion. So Conquerors of the Atlas is the expansion to change that, with some quite large endgame improvements that allow a lot more flexibility than before and introduce some very challenging fights and valuable rewards while retaining as much as possible about what people love about the Atlas gameplay of Path of Exile. The war for the Atlas, waged between the Shaper and the Elder, has ended. A group of exiles, not unlike yourselves, defeated the Elder. These exiles grew powerful and kept returning to the Atlas over and over, grinding more maps. As their power grew, so did their ambition. Driven insane by their constant exposure to the void, the conquerors of the Atlas didn't notice as they were changing the reality of the Atlas around them, they were also changing themselves. Zana saw what was happening and trapped them in the Atlas by destroying the map device. Unfortunately, they will soon find a way out. The conquerors of the Atlas supply a few ultimate bosses for Path of Exile's endgame. Here they are in human form. Initially just mere exiles, they have turned into a whole lot more. Let's watch some footage of some boss fights with the conquerors. To be developed. There's several more that we haven't quite finished yet. That's the reality of a 13-week league cycle, basically. And so all 5 are going to be very compelling endgame encounters on par with the best fights that Path of Exile have. If there's one thing our team has learned to do very well over the years, it's boss fights. So, like the Atlas of Worlds and War for the Atlas expansions, Conquerors of the Atlas introduces new endgame mechanics that control how the Atlas works. Upon opening the Atlas, you'll notice you start in the center, working outwards towards the corners. There are 90 maps visible by default. The rest must be unlocked by leveling up regions of the Atlas itself, and you do this by finding and defeating conquerors to earn watchstones that can be socketed into a region of the Atlas. You can see the regions have been marked with the yellow borders. This levels up the tier of maps within the region and also reveals new maps for you to explore. After socketing a total of 4 of these watchstones into a region, maps in that area will be raised to between tiers 14 and 16. By choosing how many watchstones you socket and where, you can completely customize your Atlas strategy. If you want to play high-level versions of every map, you can do so. If you want to keep certain regions low-level for some specific farming reason, that's very easy as well. So you can see here what happens if I add more watchstones for the specific region of the Atlas up here. Have a look at the levels of the maps and the density. So it's added more maps and it's increased the level of the other ones in there. Most of them are promoted to yellow now. And then again, of course, in this case, it's a lot denser and most of the maps are red. There's also a 4th watchstone that can be placed there. Sextants are now directly applied to a watchstone and are socketed into the Atlas and it affects the entire region. So this means that it's not a radius around a single map, but it solves all of our problems to do with stupid radiuses and overlapping circles. Now a sextant affects a much larger area and it gives us a lot more balanced tools on our end. So, one of the new rewards introduced in this expansion is the Support Gem Plus system. These new support gems can drop from Conquerors and are very high level, super powerful versions of existing support gems. They're designed to help to do better than level 20 versions of the regular support gems that take a very, very long time to level up themselves. There are around 35 of them in Conquerors of the Atlas, so let's have a look at a few. So this is Fork Plus, which will fork in additional time compared to regular fork support gem, and of course as it levels up it gets even more powerful, and this can be in subtle ways, like having a mana multiplier get unlocked closer to no additional penalty. And so by level 20, the level 20 support gem pluses are a ton more powerful than the regular support gems you're using. Here's another example, Ancestral Call Plus. This creates an additional ancestor, and let's have a look at some of these in action. It's getting pretty chaotic. Shaper and Elder rare items, now that the war is over and areas do not have Shaper or Elder influence anymore. These were very popular item drops that often formed the backbone of the most powerful crafting projects in the game. So in Conquest of the Atlas, Zana's missions can give you Shaper Guardian maps. Eventually, you can get fragments to challenge the Shaper by doing these maps. She can also give you maps containing Elder Guardians, and we're considering a fragment system for accessing Uber Elder And the goal here is to keep that content accessible. If you need to have a specific shape or elder item as part of your build, you can get it. It's just not the primary way anymore because we have new influence types to show you. So Shaper and Elder mods are being kept, and have a power balance pass being done on them. As you know, there were some pretty OP mods there that were constraining other options we had. So the items are less accessible than before, and because it's harder to get them, it implicitly kind of self-balances it, but we expect to keep the majority of them intact. We have a few that we're planning to disable or nerf, so a couple of specific mods may be toned down or turned off. I think you probably know which ones they are. All of these mods, of course, will still be available from league content to divination cards, so anything that's spawnable as a shaper or elder item via the Exile system can come from divination cards in 3.9.0. So, while it's possible to still get them, the primary function has been replaced by these 4 new influence types we'll talk about. So, advanced players will notice that these 2 rare items have mods on them that were not previously possible in these combinations. Items can now be influenced by Warlord's influence, Crusader's influence, Hunter's influence, and Adjudicator's influence, named after 4 of the Conquerors. We have created mod pools for each of these influence types. These mod pools include a selection of previous Shaper and Elder mods, as well as a variety of new ones. So what was previously the Shaper and Elder pools have been balanced slightly, a couple removed, many added, and split into 4 separate pools. So, 4 of the Conquerors can drop special new Exalted Orbs that add a random modifier from their pool to an item. This doesn't cause the item to gain the influence of that particular Conqueror, but it provides some very powerful crafting opportunities for using the mod pools. So for example, if you want a random Hunter's mod, you can take a Hunter's Exalted Orb and exalt a random Hunter's mod onto your item. It doesn't make it a Hunter's item, which is relevant for something I'll talk about soon. So they're basically like very specialized versions of Exalts that will roll one of the very strong endgame mods. The 5th and final Conqueror can drop a special currency item that lets you combine 2 influence items together. The 4 influence types can be combined with each other, or with items that have Shaper or Elder influence. So you can technically get like a Shaper/Hunter hybrid item in all the various combinations. And so that means it can have mods from both pools. Technically meaning that if there's a specific combination of mods you want, you can make that happen on an item. Previously, if there was a Shaper mod and an Elder mod, they couldn't coexist at the same time. So, in each of the Path of Exile expansions released in 2019, we've tackled a different area of gameplay to balance and improve. In March's Synthesis release, we improved spellcasting by performing an end-to-end rebalance of all spells in Path of Exile. In June's Legion release, we overhauled our melee combat system with improvements like animation cancelling, instant speed movement skills, and many more changes. In September, the 3.8.0 expansion included improvements to necromancers and remote lines. For 3.9.0, we're improving both bows and ranged attack totems. So, as you know, ranged attack totems are totems that you can cast that use your equipped bow to fire at enemies autonomously. The first and most noticeable changes, we've renamed them to ballistas and have given them new 3D art. The ranged attack totem support gem is now called the Ballista support gem. In 3.9.0, you can place 3 ballistas at once, and they're faster to place than before. We've added new passive skills specific to ballistas, including skills that allow you to put more out at once. We've also introduced 2 new ballista skill gems, so you can now specialize entirely in using ballistas as you play through the game as your sole source of damage, or just have more options available, when you're trying to kill a boss, for example. They go to focusing fire. The general ballista support also still fully works with wands. The first new ballista skill gem is Artillery Ballista. This totem fires a series of fiery arrows straight up in the air that rains down on enemies in a line, like a strafing run. Artillery Ballista intelligently targets his arrows in a diagonal line that would hit as many enemies as possible, making it very efficient to clear and spread out enemies. The second new ballista skill gem is Shrapnel Ballista, which fires multiple limited range physical projectiles at nearby enemies. Like the shrapnel theme implies, they can shotgun the enemies with the ability to multiple them to hit the same target. So if you get a point blank against the boss, you can do an awful lot of damage. Shrapnel is a great single target damage, and additional projectiles further multiplies this damage. If you can get a GMP on there, it helps a lot. Use it to take on the boss quickly or create a line of defense that destroys any enemies that approach, which would be really handy during the Blight League, of course. In addition to these 2 new ballista gems, we're introducing 3 other bow-themed gems in 3.9.0. Ensnaring Arrow is a new bow utility skill that attaches a rope to a target, tethering it to a location and slowing it down. If the target manages to get far enough away, the rope snaps. Ensnaring Arrow is a powerful utility skill, as in addition to the stack and slow, it also increases ranged attack damage taken and makes enemies always count as moving. Use Puncture on an instead enemy to guarantee a full force bleed, even on the stationary enemy like the Mighty Paduku. Now, I was hoping to have a video of the Ensnaring Arrow. It's one of those things when you're working on a 13-week cycle, but not everything is ready 4 weeks before release. It's came very close. We were pushing hard. Have videos of the other ones, though. So, some players love the Barrage skill so much, they wish everything could be Barrage. The Barrage support gem is a new support gem that does exactly that. It causes any supported bow skills to fire their projectiles in a sequence. Modifiers to additional projectiles cause extra arrows to be fired sequentially in a straight line rather than a cone. As well as bow skills, wand skills also fully work with a support gem. The additional projectiles granted by split arrow and power siphon are quite powerful with a barrage support. Arrow Nova support lets you fire an arrow into the air that lands in a remote location and splits into a nova of arrows that fire in all directions. Arrow Nova support lets you get a broad area spread from a safe distance, which is great for skills that have secondary areas of effects like Caustic Arrow. It also grants additional projectiles, letting you hit even more targets. Bow attacks that apply ailments like Burning Arrow and Explosive Arrow have been reworked. Burning Arrow now has a stacking effect alongside its Ignite. Explosive Arrow can have many more explosive arrows on the target, but repeat shots don't refresh the skill's duration, and there are large Ignite damage bonuses based on the number of arrows. Improvements have been made to a large number of underused bow skills. For example, shrapnel shots, projectiles can now all hit a single target, blast ray now gets extra explosions per additional projectile, and so on. We've also rebalanced all bow skills, and while this makes a lot of them stronger, it does mean that the reigning champion, Tornado Shot, has been nerfed. Rest in peace, Tornado Shot, you were far too good for far too long. We improved less popular bow-based types, as well as generally increasing bow damage while leveling. The next change isn't exclusive to bows, but it's certainly related. We have improved the ability to apply elemental elements to enemies, especially against high health monsters. There are now new passive skills that improve the ability for most skills to apply elemental elements, so each one can specialize in different types of behavior. As we mentioned in the keynote, Conquest of the Atlas also includes an improved version of Lionized Watch, raising its graphical quality by around a decade or so. It's one of the earliest and most iconic parts of Exile, so it deserves to look awesome. During the 3.9.0 playthrough, you'll also notice that various other areas have been improved as well. Like all expansions, 3.9.0 includes a Challenge League with its own new game mechanics. Challenge Leagues are a great place to have a fresh start and enjoy the new content in a self-contained economy. Let's have a look at the Metamorph League. Metamorph is part of Exile's 28th League and is designed to fit alongside the new endgame gameplay of Conquerors of the Atlas, as a builder and boss fight mechanic in every area of the game that provides additional challenge, a customizable level of risk and reward, while not requiring backtracking or adding too much time to each area, requiring you to play for longer than you want to. It's also an opportunity for us to experiment with a relatively powerful new jewelry quality system in a self-contained league. Let's have a look at the Metamorph trailer again.
Take a clean knife and cut a sample of flesh. Repeat 4 times. Mix the 5 samples in a equipment solution. Heat. Stand back. The intrinsic darkness will make itself known. Observe its energy, its aggression. Observe its changing form. Never comfortable to stay in one shape for long. It will try to kill you. Best not let it. Plunge the clean knife repeatedly. Try more heat. More! Perfect. Only every living creature to go.
Exile to reclass after killing his teacher, Tane searches for what makes the self by using his learned alchemical knowledge to assemble monster essences. He hopes to find a cure, or perhaps just a source for what he calls the intrinsic darkness that led to his unforgivable violence. You'll have the opportunity to create and defeat a metamorph in each area you play. As you kill monsters in the area, you'll be able to collect samples from some of their corpses. These samples each represent the embodiment of one of the monster's skills, which can be combined together to create a metamorph with all those abilities. There are various types of skills, and once you have found enough of them, Tane to help you create a metamorph. This is a dangerous fight where the metamorph changes rapidly from one form to another, unleashing skills quickly as you try to kill it. Our boss fight designers have spent a lot of time honing the combat of these encounters to make them as challenging as possible. The more powerful the metamorph monsters you combine, the more rewarding the result of metamorph bosses when you finally kill it. Some samples have specific reward types on them which add to the reward pool. In the end game, you can collect map boxes and combine them together across multiple areas to make very dangerous and rewarding metamorphs. So now it's time to talk about the new types of rewards you can get from the Metamorph League. So, like we've done for the past few leagues, where we had, in Legion and Blight, there are various symbols that represent types of reward categories. We have the same concept here. When you kill an individual monster and find a symbol, it'll have a symbol on it, and combining those with the Metamorph guarantees you drops of that type. So this is kind of the bread and butter of the reward system on most leagues. They drop well, but we have some specific new stuff. So this is quality in Path of Exile. You've probably seen it before. So to summarize, for some people here might be new, in Path of Exile, items have quality, and this value represents how well fabricated the item is and increases the power of its base properties by a nominal amount. Many different items can get quality, from weapons to armor, flasks, gems, maps, even strongboxes, and in each case, the quality influences the item in a different way. One category of items that previously couldn't get quality was jewelry, rings, amulets, and belts. So in the Metamorph League, we're introducing the concept of jewelry quality through a new type of currency item called a catalyst, which can drop from metamorphs. Catalysts are relatively rare and allow you to increase the quality of rings, amulets, and belts. There are many types of catalysts, and each one grants a different type of jewelry quality, themed around categories of item mods. For example, the prismatic catalyst relates to resistances, and the imbued catalyst relates to spellcasting. There are 8 or so other types as well for things like, attack skills and attributes and so on. When you apply a catalyst to a piece of jewelry to give it that specific type of quality, it has 2 effects. Firstly, the magnitudes of associated mods are increased by that amount. So if you have a 20% resist quality ring, and the resistances on that ring are multiplicatively increased by 20%, holding Alt to see the advanced item information model will show a breakdown of the calculation. The second effect of the jewelry quality is that it helps you craft those particular mods on the item. Using crafting currency items on jewelry with quality will reduce the quality slightly and improve the outcome, so the mods of that type are favored. In case it wasn't clear, you can only have one type of jewelry quality from one type of catalyst on an item at a time. So if you want to make a good resistances ring and it doesn't currently have it, you can stick resistances quality on the ring and then exalt it, and it's very likely to give you resistances to the outcome because that's what you've chosen. And of course, each time you craft, it reduces the quality very slightly. It's not a proper durability system. The quality does stay high while you're playing. It's not something punitive, but it does mean that you have to refresh the quality every now and then while you're crafting. And this has some really interesting consequences. Because, as you know, when you quality up a white item, you get much more quality of a catalyst. And because these are valuable, you really want to be doing that to get this value for money. And the problem is, you aren't putting it on an item that already has the really good resistances you want to amp up, for example. Like any other Path of Exile expansion, Conquerors of the Atlas contains a lot of new items to find. So let's check some of them out. So we're introducing 16 new unique items. 4 of them come from the Metamorph League, and 12 can be found by killing the Conquerors. Let's start with Hands of the High Templar. This is kind of a pure gambling unique item. The stats are passable on their own, but what really makes it shine is the ability to constantly dump wild orbs onto the item over and over, trying to get many corruption and blisters as you can. If you push your luck too far, you'll brick the item into a rare. So I tried this. I went onto our testing server, I spawned a stash pack full of these and an inventory full of wild orbs, and I had a great quarter of an hour. I got nothing good out of it, because I pushed it too hard. So I recommend stopping at about 3 implicits, because otherwise you've got some random rare. So it is all over. Leash of Ablation is definitely a slight unique item. Normally offering spells are limited to 1. So if you use Flesh Offering and then Bone Offering, the first one gets replaced by the second. This unique lifts that restriction, but at the cost of slightly weaker offerings that last a shorter duration. It doesn't mean you can have Flesh, Bone, Spirit, and potentially Blood Offering all up at the same time on one character, making your minions very powerful and potentially giving yourself a lot of bonuses if you can get the effects of the offering onto yourself somehow. Mana Storm provides a way of converting your mana pool into a form of damage. If you have a high mana pool and some way to continue casting, each time you cast a spell with a full mana pool, you give yourself a buff that causes any subsequent spells to have a very large amount of added lightning damage, letting you destroy monsters for 4 seconds. Ideally, you'll find some way to recover your mana by the end of it to keep going. Metamorph uniques all follow a theme of modifying types of skills in weird ways. Fury Valve basically takes any additional projectiles you might have through a skill, like through multiple projectiles for example, and turns it into a single projectile instead. However, when that single projectile strikes an enemy, it splits into that number of projectiles targeting nearby enemies, so it results in a very different type of area coverage for your skills. I'm also going to show you 5 divination cards that we're releasing in Conquest of the Atlas. I think each one of these speaks for themselves.
Okay.
We've got any more of that soul pipe? So the stack size of 1 is not a mistake there. So let's talk about difficulty. Every league introduces new tools for building powerful characters. 3.9.0 is no different. For example, Support Gem Plus is a whole lot of power creep. An endgame expansion is the perfect opportunity to evaluate endgame difficulty, as we can adjust rewards at the same time. Conquest of the Atlas's endgame is more challenging than previous Atlas expansions, and we like it that way, and I hope you will as well. We'll post more information about this process before release, but one thing that we are specifically noting is we're definitely targeting Monster Life as part of this process. So, we'll be releasing Conquerors of the Atlas and the Metamorph Challenge League on December 14th, which is December 13th for most of the rest of the world. This is a week later than we usually release our December expansion because of Exile. Alright, so we have half an hour and a lot of questions, I'm sure. So use the instructions up here to get onto the website that lets you ask the questions. I'm stalling for time for a sec so you guys can actually write them. And we have some guests who are going to be helping with the question session whenever you guys are ready. So this is Reese Abraham, senior programmer. He's been with us for 11 years now at the studio. He's going to be asking the questions that you guys have submitted by picking the good ones. And this is Leon, he's our content lead. He's basically God of our studio. Like, this guy makes fun of Exile.
Thank you.
Alright, so there's some questions when you're ready.
Okay, so we've seen how the Atlas changes as you soften it. How does it affect unique maps?
Well, real quick, thanks for the applause. Thanks for being here. Hope everyone enjoys New Zealand, and that was real awesome earlier. As for unique maps, they will be, so you sock it in a watchstone, it will reveal the maps and any unique maps connected to them in that area. And they will also tear up. So it will result in every unique map also being able to be tier 14 to 16 as well. With Coward's Trial, Poor Joys, yes, this becomes quite efficient.
That's scary.
We have adjusted some drop rates as a result, and we might do some more, but yeah, that's where it lies right now. We will hopefully, just the unique maps in isolation, hopefully improve what we can there in terms of just making them more modern, more fun, anything that's a bit lackluster, if time permits.
Great. So we've seen quite a few new currency items coming from this new. Will there be slots for those in the currency stash tab?
Anything that's added into a permanent game, rather than in league-specific currency, is definitely going to get slots. If we're adding something temporarily for a league and we're not sure whether that's going to stay, we often stall the slots a little bit. But yeah, we have to add slots for the new currency items. I don't know what we're going to do with that tab, right? Like, we're certainly not going to make you buy currency tab number 2, which has different slots. It's pretty much just a matter of adding tabs for the tab, or making it tiny or something. We'll work something out. But yeah, we're going to add slots. Sorry if we're slow with this kind of thing. We focus on getting the expansion done, and then realize we have to add the slots to it, but we'll hopefully get it in.
Fantastic. So the new ballistas, they still count as tokens, right? For the is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So how about Iron Commander then?
Yes. Yeah, it will work. You get a lot of them, yes.
Will the main ballistas reach new heights?
Yeah. Let's go with yeah. We'll adjust. I mean, obviously this is on the hit list or something we're cautious about. I honestly can't say with certainty if we've done anything yet, but look, at the very least we're going to revise it, look at it, and we'll consider it, of course. Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned Rip Tornado Shot. What about Headhunter?
I like it.
This has come up several times internally. It's been a bit of it's a tricky one. The general answer is that, yeah, often you want that extremely valuable item. I mean, often people are saying they don't think there's enough chase units anymore. Surely that's a perfect example of one. It is quite extreme though, yes, but there's no current plans, but again, it comes up and comes up and comes up, and we're relying on, you know, the whole community to keep us, you know, on our toes about that one. So, but yeah, no current plans. My personal preference is I'm not entirely happy with it. Judge me as you want. Others are more happy about it. But as it being a chase unique in its place, like it's an icon of the game now. So doing any change to it is of course going to affect a lot of people, and it's quite a sensitive, you know, thing to adjust. But yeah.
So the new plus skill gems are looking pretty good. They look like they might be an integral part of in-game builds. Are the drop rates going to be, like, how bad is it going to be for solo Southbound, for example?
Well, okay, we currently have it about you can do one of the Conquerors as a boss, not the final one, but the Guardian equivalent, if you want to call it that. You know, every 6 maps or so, plus a little bit of a buffer. You cannot just do repeating them every single map. That's currently the plan, of course, susceptible to changing. They will definitely not drop a support gem plus every single time, and they will be also weighted within there. So it might be that certain ones are, some of them are just damage multipliers. Some of them, as you saw from before, can give a bit more mechanical or more clear speed. And we'll be weighting those accordingly based on how we think, how powerful they are, you know. So some of them might be extremely rare. I'd like to say that a lot of them are going to be mini exalts. And one other thing on that is they don't have, I think it was mentioned, they got to level 20. That is not the case. They have lower level limits. Sorry. All good. And they are much harder to level than regular gems. Some of them only gain a certain bonus at level 5. And leveling some of them to level 5 might be the equivalent of anywhere between 5 to 10 level 20 cycles of a regular gem. So they will last a while, hopefully.
On the drop weight concept, Path of Exile is a game about items. Finding powerful items should be difficult, right? Like, I understand people are used to the fact that support gems and gems are literally worthless in Path of Exile, like you get an event for a wisdom scroll or whatever. That's not necessarily going to be the case with really late in game, right? We want some value. We want to feel good when you find one. You found this one, I found this one, let's trade them, that kind of thing. It's good for them to be hard to find.
Do we have a bunch of fancy new uniques coming from the new in-game bosses?
Yes, I mean, you saw a couple of them just before. We do. I mean, we are effectively introducing the new Shaper, Elder, and Guardian equivalents. So, of course, they come with new uniques. I can't really describe them all off the top of my head, but yes, yeah.
Yeah, there are 12, right, in that category?
Yes, currently there are 12. It's not a bit more. Technically, there are unique watchstones that can socket in your atlas as well. So we're including that. There's obviously a lot more.
I have no idea about that.
So in the current in-game, players can become efficient enough, they can move fast enough, they can kill enough monsters quickly enough that they can basically maintain 100% uptime on all classes. Are there any changes to that coming from 3.9?
In 3.9.0, we don't currently have a plan, but as recently it was on the podcast as well, and we've mentioned it before, that we do want to look at flasks in a rework. Everyone wants the, popsicle stick on your 1 to 5. We don't want that to need to be the case, so a rebalance or redesign isn't, you know, it's come up, it came up for 3.9.0, but we just couldn't fit it in. So where we might be able to do something, it will definitely not be a full system rework or anything like that. But yeah, we know it's a problem.
Are we going to bring back race seasons? I feel like I know the answer to that.
So this year we ran 4 qualifiers for a variety of different methods. The goal being to have the big finale tomorrow. And the goal was we judge how popular it is and make a decision about race seasons in the future. And it's looking pretty popular. I mean, you know, we've had really good engagement on Twitch. We've had a lot of people very, very keen. And I think the transition that we're doing here is, in the past, our concept of races was that when a race runs, everyone plays. Everyone is physically playing it. And we weren't really thinking about people watching on Twitch and enjoying something they weren't particularly good at themselves. But what we've come to realize from the community doing races is a lot of people, in addition to liking to play the races, they also like to watch them. And if we move more of a focus on, you're welcome to play races, but it's an enjoyable experience to watch, we'll put effort into the production values and having it be interesting, that's probably a better direction, because then we don't have the logistical nightmare of running multi-thousand person races at different time zones. Because previously we had so many different people around the world playing Path of Exile. To make it fair, we had to spread the races out and have so many of them, and it was just consuming so much of our resources. If we can say, this is the race, at this time, we're putting a bit of effort into it, and people look forward to it, and maybe there's qualifiers or something, that's probably a more practical thing for us to do. So if you're asking for race seasons in order to get Ultimate Heart uniques, you're probably not going to be happy, because our goal isn't to like make more of those. But if you want race systems for entertainment because race is awesome, then that's something we probably can deliver. So we're having discussions, especially with the community racing people, going into 2019 about how we can do this in a way that doesn't take too much resources on our end, but gives them the support they need for it to be a big part of Path of Exile.
Okay. So we are removing the normal shaper and elder from the atlas, but can you still use any existing fragments in standard to access them?
Yes. All the fragments will still work. The shaper fight will still be in the game. Currently, the means of access will be through Zana missions, which it probably needs to not be the only way. And it won't be as rare as the synthesis ones, which I'll also change. My bad.
Shaper and version room?
So think of it like this: you'll get a Zana mission, and then one of the maps that will be there will be Guardian of the Hydra map, right? You do it, you get the fragment. So eventually you get enough fragments that you can do the shaper. So that's not standard. The standard fragments still work. The fight still works, the drops are still there. It will just be far less accessible. As for Elder, while we're on that note, Elder will be accessed through the same means, and again, I want to add more ways, because I don't think Zana missions should be the only way to access this. It'll either mean that every single time you encounter Zana, you're going to have a shaper map, an Elder map, or a synthesis map to the point where every other choice is invalid, or they're going to be too rare that no one will really get to enjoy or see it. So I'll look into that more for sure. But yes, Elder will likely be that you get a map that says or has a different art and says it will contain an Elder Guardian, and will likely add fragment system to get to the Elder. And I believe what we're going to do is have the Shaper drop fragments and the Elder drop fragments, and then you can combine those to do the every Elder fight. None of that is entirely set in stone, but that's the probable path right now.
It's also worth clarifying, this isn't related to this particular question, but I realise we haven't covered it. Conquerors of the Atlas content is placed to everyone in Path of Exile, not just people playing in the Metamorph League. So if you decide to play in Standard, you're getting all the Conquerors content, all of these changes, except obviously not the Metamorph content, because that's in Metamorph. This is how we normally handle these big expansions, but it's something we haven't explicitly said for this one. I just got reminded when we were talking about it in Standard, there are also the fragments. So a person in Standard is playing the Conqueror's Atlas, gets access to the shaper through the new method, but they also have fragments in their stash tab that they can use.
So 3.9 has a bit of a focus on increasing the difficulty of the endgame, as we've seen. How do you balance difficulty versus reward?
This is very tricky. Let's just talk about the difficulty for a second here. So we've had a lot of discussions about making the end game more difficult, and there are so many problems. I mean, for example, if we were to just say, let's just say that we were going to multiply the life of everything by 10 times, right? You now take a chunk of your player base and effectively say they are not capable of doing that content. So you're pushing it more and more and more towards the elite. Now, obviously then you taper it, right? So they can only get halfway through maps, or they can only get to the end of, to red maps, and then they can't really progress further. So you apply that 10 times to T16s, and you apply no life modifiers to T1s, and you linearly, or however you want, apply that life throughout the tiers. Now, the real problem, even another problem, is the moment monsters have enough life, and you are doing large quantities of hits and damage to them, performance starts to become a problem. You saw this a while back. You can probably still have it happen sometimes. We had like the double cannot die auras, where they would apply to each other, and you AoE a whole pile of monsters, and then you end up dropping frames, and it doesn't go well. So even just applying life has technical difficulties, as well as obviously the balance. But we do want to increase the life. Not happy with how fast, I'd say, the average player is killing this content now. It seems to become, obviously, it's become very trivial as people have learned it, as we've added power creep and about to add more. So we are going to be increasing quite a lot of life. There's just some workarounds we need to do, and I'm not sure where we're going to apply it. It's quite also harsh to say, okay, a player that can currently farm T16, right, patch goes out, they now have way more life, he just can't. All of a sudden now they're back at T7 maps. It's a very feel bad to deploy that. So the way to do that would be to then add, 17 onwards. Of course, that introduces even more need to add new base types and item level mods, etc. So it's tricky. There's no perfect answer I have right now, but we do want to make the game more difficult to counteract the power creep, and we will be doing at least life. There are other axes we can target. We'll have a go at that. I don't have a perfect answer for that.
On the rewards side of this, we're not promising that due to the fact that we're making the game challenging that we're going to double drops or anything like that. It makes the game less fun if you get your head over on day one. But this gives us a chance to review it. Let's just take a step back and look at what the rewards people are getting at and adjust it. And there's arguments for more rewards, right? People like rewards, but there's also arguments for less in some cases, right? Like, I believe that with Granite League, where we said that there's 10 times fewer items dropping, people would still find it compelling because we'd be fighting over every single item. It's like what's happening out there with the card game right now, right? It's this kind of thing would be happening. Maybe not everyone would like that, but there are a number of people that would like a game where items are scarce. I'm not saying we're reducing costs, of course, in 3.9.0, but it gives us a chance to review it and make sure there's the appropriate rewards so that people are making characters and getting additional item upgrades at the right speed. A thing that's important to understand for context is we have this decluttering project, which we haven't talked about a lot, which is basically just comparing a couple of Exile items back and looking at how it all works overall, which has to be done before 4.0. And this is a lot of, we started working on this many months ago now. The basic idea is there's not so much random white trash that drops and so many white items that drop in maps, right? Instead of 500 items on the ground where there's 20 rares, wouldn't it be better if there's like 80 items on the ground with like 10 good rares? And so we've got a lot of work we're doing on this, and that's why we're thinking about reward quite a lot recently, because we like the idea of having to look at less things, but generally finding it more compelling. Because as you know right now, an item dropping on the ground is almost not worth looking at sometimes because you can craft something so much better. So we're looking to find overall a better compromise where you're excited to craft, you're excited to find items, there's a lot less reading, you don't filter 99% of drops out, and so on and so on. Please add to this if I just get you moving.
Well, if this works out, what Chris is talking about, we will end up with a better system of allowing difficulty and reward correlation, so hopefully that all works on our end because it will produce, hopefully, a better result.
This decluttering is not scheduled for 3.9.0, we're still working on it. It's one of those dangerous things to release. And honestly, my major trepidation with releasing it is we can have it, so like we have it right now, but using the decluttering system, you're getting much better rare drops when they drop, right? There's a lot of things we're doing there, we'll talk about it later. But there's still fewer, right? So in the old game, you kill some monster, 11 rares drop. You look at them and they're garbage. And under the new system, 3 rares drop. They're a lot better on paper, but you look at them and you think, they're garbage. Because they weren't good for your character. And I don't want people saying, well, they just cut out 3/4 of the drops and didn't make them better. And so that's what we're trying to achieve with that, to making sure that it's communicated well and that the items are actually more meaningful for the average player, as opposed to being better on paper because they'll roll higher tiers of mods that still don't matter to your particular build, for example. So there's a lot of work that has to go into this, both on our end and in terms of like phrasing it correctly to the community when we eventually do roll it out, that it's a bit of a challenge and not scheduled for any particular expansion. But it will, this is a bit of a roundabout decluttering. The performance improvements we will gain by not having an extra 600 rendered items on the ground with shadows, for example, 600 items at every frame on the client under the server have to be touched to see if there's anything going on with them. There's so many things that we get game-wide by having a more understandable set of fewer drops occurring that it's something we're very, very keen to roll out in the future. And 3.9.0 probably won't actually contain the final version or any of that necessarily, but we are thinking about this when we're looking at the reward with regard to how challenging the map content is.
On the topic of clutter, is there anything planned for the amount of skill effects that can happen on screen all at once during in-game content especially?
There's nothing currently planned, but of course, I agree with all of you and everyone. We can all say there's just too much ruckus going on. That's fair to say. As for what to do about it, probably not for me to say, not even necessarily for Chris to say.
This is a Josh's question.
Yes, correct.
So let's not answer it because he'll kill us. He has his talk coming up after this one, we should ask him then.
So we have these new support gens, plus support gens, and they sound like they'll be quite a long-term investment. Will they still have the same viable corruption outcomes?
They currently, yes, but obviously in some cases the levels matter a lot more. We've also made a lot of their qualities quite substantial. Because you can't flip these either, they will take the full 20 GCPs to I believe the recipe is at level 20, so because these cannot reach level 20, you cannot flip them. But the qualities will be far more impactful as well. But honestly, that's not really something we've looked or considered too much yet. It's a good point, and we'll definitely bring it up and be like, do we want to make sure the corruptions are far more impactful as a result of obviously the leveling process. There's a good chance that you lose that level and lose, potentially days of gem leveling and a fair bit of power that goes from 5 to 4, for example, in some cases. So yes, we'll look into that more, but currently the same.
So what's happening with Blight in 3.9? Sorry.
So we need to revisit this one. In fact, we recently did. We had decided quite a while back that we were going to keep it. Do the same treatment as Breach with 10% of maps, etc., etc. But of course, we decided that, well, I wouldn't say we decided it, but when we made that decision, it was a bit too early in the process and we hadn't fully, the players, all of you, experience of it and feedback and how that sits hadn't really fully evolved, so we really didn't know the general opinion was going to be positive or negative in the end. We need to revisit that. I'm not saying either way, really, but we'll look at it, so all the feedback will drive that. And it's in a very easy position now where we can just say yes or no and turn it on or off. It's not like a lot of work is involved for us. Unless we want to say no, but then also keep oils, and then it starts to become a little bit more complex. So I'll say it's partially undecided, but we had decided earlier that yes, it was going to, but...
Out of interest, I can only see the bottom floor here. Can I get a show of hands for anyone who wants Blight to stay in the game? That looks like a majority, right? You reckon no? Someone doesn't. Okay, can I get a show of hands against Blight being in the game? Slightly less. Okay, we'll fix it up and then put it in the game sometime, okay? This will be 100%
On that note, it is worth considering things like if we were to I know a problem some people have with it, especially late in the game, is that it becomes too easy. It's trivial from a point on, and then it's just boring. If we do the in-game life changes and stuff we're talking about, it's also going to affect all this lead content. And obviously each of those pieces of content will need their own balance adjustments and revisements, but this will also alleviate that problem. That's just an example of a semi-unrelated change fixing that problem. And of course, if we do, blighted maps aren't going to be anywhere near as rare. We will counteract it, if not even more. Since you're only getting it 1 every 10 areas, obviously, it's probably fair that we can give away a lot more blighted maps.
Are there any changes to Watcher's Eye jewels? Since I assume they're less accessible now, is that correct?
The core change is that they'll probably be a lot more expensive. We're reducing the accessibility, of course. As for changes to the item itself, nothing currently intended.
I wonder if there are people right now going to the trade site and buying those jewels up, like watching online. Probably. Sucks you guys are here in New Zealand, they can't say make some results.
I guess every league, there's a few people wondering if we're going to make any changes to the labyrinth enchantment system. So I guess I may as well get that out of the way.
Again, no current plan, but that's it's in the same area. It's come up so many times. I don't have anything certain on that, but we have discussed things, of course, as far as like you can see what you're going to get, so at least you know what to apply it to. We've discussed things like you get 3 options and you get to pick one. There have been these conversations, we just haven't really gone ahead with it. To be fair, it's probably been me holding that one back the most. I understand the introducing new skills, making it harder to get existing good ones, and some of them being very impactful, and probably makes sense to me, I get that. I also just very much like the fact that it's very difficult to get the one you want, and you can make a lot of currency and money off specializing in that content. So those two desires are conflicting with each other, but yeah, I mean, again, same deal with 3.0, we're adding more skills, and as such we're adding more enchants, and so we're just diluting the pool. We get the problem, we almost certainly will do something about it, just can't say when and can't say what.
Do you know if Eric spoke about the labyrinth and the world building talk? Like covered labyrinth's presence or lack of presence as a part of the campaign? Okay, right. So that's the thing.
We'll be going over that in the next talk slot. But yeah, no, they won't. The newer settings, I'll just say now, the newer settings and classes won't be accessed through the labyrinth. It'll be through alternate means.
So that's important to understand in the context of where we're going with the charts in the future.
We will be going over that in more detail in the next talk.
Okay, we're getting to lower quality questions, but
Well, we're going to have time for one or two of that anyways.
okay, good. So, Royale.
So that's what we're doing. Okay, so we had a lot of fun making Royale, and it was a long time ago now, like 18 months ago. So if we were to turn it on, who knows what would happen? It wouldn't be pretty. Things rot when you don't use them. So we ran Royale, people loved it, they wanted another one. But we immediately had stuff we wanted to fix. We had lots of things we wanted to change with that. We wanted to have custom skill trees so that you have like a 10-point Royale skill tree. We wanted to take all the unique stuff, take all the skills up and introduce low-level versions. Like have a level 3 Morogi, that kind of stuff. You know, so you're finding this cool stuff in your level 1 to 10 range that you're doing. We had all these plans, and then everyone was busy for 18 months. So I don't want to just, it takes like days to get it working again and stuff. I'd rather just spend the weeks to make it awesome. Now there's no promise, like we're busy, real busy, especially this weekend, but at some stage we'll find a developer, we'll make them just like maybe, a junior guy to learn the game or something. We can supervise it, we'll get someone, and we'll make Royale awesome, and then we can run it again, or maybe as a permanent thing. It'll be good. That's cool, right? Can you do it?
We can do that.
Thanks. I need his permission for stuff, and I'm not even kidding.
With the Metamorph League, is there any specific in-game encounter or area, or what's the deal with the in-game?
So as you're doing maps, if you put together the perfect combination, as we're calling it, which is a map boss plus enough, the 4 other slots being powerful enough monsters, you'll fill up a power bar. The more power, the more life, the more damage. So more uniques and rares in the slots is a good way to drive that up. And if you hit a certain threshold, which is the bar being complete, which isn't that unachievable, like you will be able to do it in most maps, then doing that in the map will then drop an itemized version, a tradable itemized version of the map boss as a specimen form. You can then take that to Tane's laboratory and with 4 other map bosses insert them into his vat there while he watches you fight, and it'll be the combination of 5 map bosses. So there's a little bit of it in the trailer, it's just hard to kind of make out. You could have something that turns into Malachi, does the slam, then turns into Avarius, does the beam. So it kind of takes, with your control, takes map boss skills from other bosses and puts them all together. So it rotates between these different forms. And it means that you have different encounters that you've just never experienced before. It's really hard to learn. I mean, you know each skill independently, but it's hard to learn when they're used in this synergy. So hopefully some deaths.
That's dangerous. Well, thank you everyone, that's all we have time for. We'll be doing the 4.0 deep dive immediately with Jonathan and Mark and so on. And so thank you very much, it's been good to see you. I'll catch you around the convention.